Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, someone fascinated by all things spooky and paranormal, Nikki Hawkins, a Disney-obsessed cat and dog mom, podcaster, and coffee addict, who is here to talk not only about her new show, Bats on the Brain podcast, but also her crush on a director who is pretty much the master of bringing spectacular fantasies to life, Tim Burton. Nikki, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so thankful you're here for our Halloweeny special.
I'm super excited. And by the way, let me just say, you made me sound way better than I think I actually am. So I'm a little nervous now.
I mean, you're going to live up to it.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I do have my coffee in hand, so.
I'll see. You're already living up to one of the descriptors.
Well, it is the first day of fall, and I had to get a pumpkin spice latte, so I figured this is a perfect opportunity.
Well, there you go. Have some pumpkin spice, light some seance-y candles.
Ooh, yeah.
Have Hocus Pocus playing in the background.
I should have lit my pumpkin spice candle, too. Dang it.
I have one in the bathroom. I think it's a pumpkin spicy type thing. It's just too good to pass up.
Oh, yeah. I'm obsessed with all things Halloweeny and pumpkin-y, and it's all bad. It's all good, actually.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of pumpkin growing up, but as I got older, I'm not maybe the drink, but pumpkin bread, pumpkin cookies. I'm a master of those.
Oh, man. Okay.
So let's get to this crush on Tim Burton, because so many people of a particular age, I think Tim Burton entered their lives as a kid. But of course, when we're kids, we're not clamoring to see the credits of movies. We're we don't care. We're just whatever. But at an early age, we watched Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, and I think we didn't find them particularly scary. So do you think that Tim Burton in a way helped introduce a generation to the darker side of life, but allowed them to embrace it and not be so terrified of it?
Yeah, actually I just kind of rewatched a bunch of Tim Burton movies to prepare, because I was oh, she asked me something, I want to make sure I have all the answers. But for me, definitely when I was younger, I didn't really, obviously, I knew the name Tim Burton because I had heard it and I'd seen it when when Nightmare Before Christmas pops up, it says Tim Burton right there on the title screen. So I kind of associated him only with Nightmare Before Christmas, and it wasn't until I got older that I was oh my god, he made Edward Scissorhands and Beetlejuice and Batman Returns and all these other movies. And I was what's happening? But thinking back, I would say when I was younger, I was more fascinated. Yes, he did kind of introduce the spooky side of things in a more, I don't want to say lighthearted, because his movies do have an underlying kind of haunting feel, I guess, to it. So I wouldn't say they're lighthearted at all, but I would definitely say, yeah, he kind of introduced a different type of spooky to us. And I think it's more I'm in my 30s, so maybe it's more my generation when we were younger, because we grew up in the 90s, early 2000s. And that's when his big movies or his most popular movies were coming around and becoming more popular. Mm-hmm. So I feel that was a roundabout way to answer your question. But yes, I agree. But I also think it's just his style, how he introduces the gothic fantasy type, kind of introducing a new way to show things in a different light versus all their typical Disney, happy-go-lucky Disney movies. There's just so much to, I feel, his style and the way his movies are that bring this almost the underdog character to light.
Yeah, for sure. I remember, I want to say I don't remember it's Beetlejuice or Edward Scissorhands in my head of which one I saw first, but Edward Scissorhands I think stands out a little bit before, and I remember watching that and I loved the character, but I think what I loved most and what it ingrained in me that I took from it was I didn't want to be like everyone else, because that opening scene where she's driving him home and you see the suburbs. In my head, I was I never want to live in a suburban area. And I don't and to this day, when I go to those places where everything's just cookie cutter, I'm ugh. And I know it dates back to watching Edward Scissorhands the first time and him being that outcast and me kind of feeling like that. So maybe that's a generational thing too of our people, where those millennials, we just want to be on the outside of things.
I 100%. So me and my husband just watched that the other day, and he actually had to walk out of the room before the end of the movie because he was like, I can't watch the end. And I was like, why? No one, well, I mean, one person dies, but I was like, Edward Scissorhand doesn't die. It's not a bad movie. He's like, I can't watch him. He's just so misunderstood. And he's like, I just feel for him so much. I just can't watch it. And I was like, oh, but I totally agree. It's that outcast. And I think Tim Burton has a way of making all of us kind of outcasts, or, you know, people at least for me, like I feel darker, I guess, on the inside than what I would look like. I look like your basic person. I mean, I have a freaking pumpkin spice latte in my hand. Come on. But I think he just kind of speaks to like our inner, dare I say, emo, spooky, you know, darker sides. And he definitely brings that out and shows in his movies that it's okay to be different. And I really like that aspect of him.
Speaking of emo, you're of a particular age, as am I, and emo was very big in our teens. And you said, like, as a kid, you liked the Tim Burton movies, but it was like as a teenager in high school, that's when you started to dig a little deeper. Do you think that has something to do with being like an angst-ridden teen at that age and like seeking out those darker things? Because I think for me, it was like the emo music and like anything that was in Hot Topic. So for you, was it like the Tim Burton movies that you were like, okay, and that kind of maybe introduced you to more alternative looks and things like that?
I think my emo phase is, I mean, I still love emo music. It's definitely like my guilty pleasure now, because when you say emo, people are like, oh my God, emo? I'm like, yeah, it was awesome. Like the best movies, these like spoke era movies, the best songs. I would say my emo phase kind of reintroduced me to my Tim Burton obsession in a way that it almost made it okay to accept the spookier side. So for me, I grew up in suburbia, basically. I mean, I'm outside of Sacramento, California, so it's kind of all suburbia here and everything's the same. Not so much cookie cutter, thank God, because where I live is a little older, but you're expected to be one way. I know my parents weren't exactly thrilled when I started listening to my emo music, or even like my screamo, because I was really into the Avenged Sevenfold for a long time. So they didn't really understand that, and I think that aspect kind of made me want to hide, I guess, my interests and passions a little bit more, just because it wasn't so common. But I got to watch, you know, Nightmare Before Christmas over and over again, and it was acceptable because it's a Disney movie. But so many things about that movie, when I watch it now, like so many different things like speak to me. And I don't know if it's just an age thing, because when I was younger, Oogie Boogie scared the crap out of me.
Oh my God, he is so terrifying. And to this day, I'm like, I don't like bugs. So.
Oh, well, when I was little, I don't think I realized that he's just a burlap sack filled with bugs. And I was like, he terrified me. His song, I remember fast forwarding his songs. I couldn't do it. And I was like, no, I don't want to watch that part. I just want to watch Jack Skellington and Zero. That's it. But now watching back to it, Lock, Shock, and Barrel, I never appreciated them until now. And I'm like, oh my God, those little creepy kids, because they're pretty creepy, I'm not going to lie. But they are like who I wanted to be when I was young. Like I had that little, like a dark streak, kind of like they did. And so now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, so much of, like I resonate so much with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like middle school and high school, like you mentioned having this like dark streak in you. And I feel like in those years, that's when we're like our most rebellious. Can you like think, other than like listening to the Screamo and Avenged Sevenfold, like what was your most rebellious thing you did at that age?
Oh, I was not a rebellious child. I was way too afraid to get in trouble. I would say one thing that we did when I was in high school is, I'm trying to remember what the road was called. We had this road, and I want to say it was called PFE. I don't know, it's been such a long time, but I remember going down there with my friends, and it was probably like midnight, you know, really late, trying to get scared. And that's probably one of the most rebellious things that we've done, because my parents were like, don't be out so late, you know, and I think I was driving. So I had no idea where I was, but I had me and a bunch of my friends in my car, and we're going down the street in the middle of the dark, like pitch black, just trying to get scared. Of course, nothing happened, but
was there like an urban legend around the street or anything, like a story? Like what was it about this street?
I think it was just stories passed down in high school. Like, I don't even think our parents knew anything about it, but I had an older brother. I'm pretty sure he had probably told me and my friends, like, oh, this street's like haunted. If you drive by, you'll see, like, I don't even remember, but I think there was like an abandoned barn on the side of the road.
That does sound spooky.
Just go down, like creepy things are going to happen to you. You'll see like a green light and all that stuff. I'm like, oh my God, we have to do this. Of course, nothing happened. Go figure. I don't know. I was kind of more rebellious in my 20s. I was a late bloomer.
Same. I was like emo kid, but definitely like just a nerd. Like I just was like, I want to go to college. So I was mostly just staying at home listening to The Used on Friday night.
The Used. I used to blare them in my car.
We just this week we did our emo crush and did a lot of talking about The Used.
I
Charlotte.
did see that on Instagram, and I was like, I need to check that one out.
Yeah, it was on Benji Madden. Good Charlotte.
Ooh, yeah. I was Story of the Year was my go-to band, and then closely followed by Thrice, and then The Used, and then Avenged Sevenfold. Those were kind of like my primaries.
Yeah, I was like, The Used was like as hard as I ever went. Like Avenged Sevenfold and things like that, I would know a song here or there, but like The Used was like it for me. But then I was totally like the pop punk, like Newfound Glory.
Yeah.
Charlotte, all that stuff. The more like wussy stuff.
I would say
like
wussy.
The screamos, like.
But I just think it's funny the misconception that a lot of people have with emo music, at least the way I interpret it. So
yeah, for sure. I think like goth kids got it in the 80s and grunge kids got it in the 90s and emo kids got it in the aughts. So it's going to be something for every generation. Back then, I mean, you were into that scene and I'm sure like your crush taste, like guys at school or whatever, guys in bands, you were definitely like looking at that sideswiped hair, the skinny jeans and stuff. But
skinny jeans, tattoos. Yep.
So you liked guys who were definitely more alternative already. Like Tim Burton didn't get you going on like the goth trail.
No, not necessarily. Well, also I knew Tim Burton by his name and his style. Like Edward Scissorhands, I would totally have a crush on him now because he was that misunderstood, tortured. I don't know how else to classify him, but he was just misunderstood and tortured.
Like tortured artist. I mean, he did all that topiary hair. So
yes, artist. That's a great way to put it. But his hair. Oh man. But I'm like so drawn to that, and I was drawn to that ever since I could remember. So I mean, maybe it was underlying he introduced me to that style. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I wouldn't say like, yeah, it was 100% Tim Burton. But I think everything from his movies and introducing me to his gothic fantasy style, which I'm totally obsessed with. I find that so fascinating. And just the way he could portray these characters that would seemingly be terrifying, but he actually puts soul into them and makes them relatable to not the typical normal person, which I think is wonderful. And then also mixed in with my angsty youth, I think those kind of all triggered the type of person I guess I'm attracted to. So maybe he does. Maybe I can attribute my man crushes to him.
Discovering something new about yourself today.
Yes. Huh.
Because I have to mention your crush on Tim Burton is more on the artistic side. It's not his like physicality, even though if anyone has never seen Tim Burton young, like in the 80s, he was like pretty hot.
He wasn't bad. I won't lie. He's not bad at all. Not probably my type.
I was watching that Movies That Made Us on Netflix and they did Nightmare, and I was like, they showed him and I was like, damn. Because I'm so used to seeing what he is today. Like that's what he's looked like my whole life. But I was like, wow. In the 80s, I would have tried to hit that. Sure. But anyway, yeah. So it's not like his physical attributes. It's his more his mind that you're crushing on. So what about him and that he's done have you found like the most inspiring in regards to like your creative side?
I think the way he creates his characters. No, I know I kind of alluded to to that, how he makes his main characters almost have this fight within them. Like they're trying to figure out who they are and also adapt to the world around them. I think that's kind of probably the most fascinating thing to me. And I would definitely say that I relate to that because I feel like I want to portray who I am on the inside, but I do struggle with, you know, who I am on the outside too. I don't know if that really makes sense, but there's kind of a clash. Like for me, it's very hard to openly talk about things I'm really interested in. And I think that's why I started my podcast, is because I do want a platform to talk about that. But I can't necessarily just randomly bring that up in conversation because I have people in my life who are like, wait, why are you interested in that? Like, that's weird. And so this kind of gives me my own little platform, kind of like my release. And I feel like with the Tim Burton movies, he captures that so wholeheartedly and almost, at least all the movies that I like, I feel like that comes through in his creativity, and that's what I'm drawn to.
Yeah, because he's not just influenced you, he's influenced like so many, and I think what you said definitely resonates with a lot of his fans, the outcasts out there. And I was trying to think, like, I can't think of any other director who is kind of on his level in terms of style. I wanted to know if, like, you know any, maybe because you're into gothic fantasy, that maybe are less mainstream than him.
I don't know any, and I think that's another reason why he's so fascinating to me, because his style is so unique. The only one that I could think of just off the top of my head that is pretty along the lines of spooky creepy is the movie Coraline. Have you seen that one?
Oh, Coraline.
Coraline, yes, Coraline. That one's pretty creepy. I don't know who makes it though.
Oh, it's this company called Leica. They're behind like that Kubo and the 2 strings. That one, maybe there was more strings. I don't know. It was really good. Paranorman and the Box Trolls.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of do the like stop motion, and those movies do have some scary stuff, but I just don't know if I'd compare it to like overall what he's done, but that is as close as probably we're gonna get at the moment.
I mean, if you want to find something, I think that's the closest, but no, I don't think anyone can compare to his style. I don't think anyone can compare to his vision. I mean, who comes up with Nightmare Before Christmas or Corpse Bride or like all those movies? I mean, just the way I refuse to watch this film because I am a traditionalist at heart when it comes to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But the way he re-envisioned Charlie and Chocolate Factory, the newer one, that's crazy. I mean, the Oompa Loompas look terrifying to me and I still refuse to watch it, but
it's not great. It's fine. I mean, you can't be. I think I saw a tweet the other day. It was said Johnny Depp played Willy Wonka, but Gene Wilder is Willy Wonka.
Exactly. So I 100% agree with that. But I just think the way he can create these worlds is fascinating. And no, I don't think any other director could live up to him anytime soon. Maybe like a newer director coming up, but I haven't seen anything that would even touch the amazingness that is Tim Burton's mind.
He's definitely like one of a kind then. But he does have influence. Like you said, there's Coraline and we mentioned Kubo, Paranorman, all kind of heavily influenced by Nightmare Before Christmas. That stop motion was like legendary.
Well, didn't it take like 7 years to complete too? Something
like 100 years. I don't know. It was like a long time. Because when you hear like every little second is like they have to rework it, I'm just like, I get like mentally exhausted just thinking about that. I'm like, why?
Every time I watch Nightmare Before Christmas, I'm like always trying to pay like extreme attention to Jack Skellington's expressions because they have to change his head for every single frame. And I'm like, I'm gonna find a mistake. Like I'm gonna find out where they didn't change his head.
It's like insane. Which, like, speaking of Nightmare, that's like your favorite one he's ever done. He didn't like direct it, but it's like inspired by his art and all he did, and he's behind it, so it's his movie. Whatever. Well,
he started it. Yeah, he just didn't finish it.
Yeah, you know, Disney was like, hey, you do this. But what is like your OMG moment of that movie that makes it sort of still be top in your heart?
Let's see. Okay, so for me, it's kind of the end where he realizes that he is in fact the Pumpkin King and Halloween is his holiday. Like, I like that he had to go through the experience of trying to take over Christmas, but at the end, I like that he figures out who he is 100%. And I think that's kind of what resonated.
Is that because of the struggles you have, like with your inner and outer expression? Makes sense then.
I think I don't know. I just like when people like just misunderstood people, or I don't know if Jack Skellington's misunderstood, but I mean he's definitely tortured. But I just like when they come out on top, and I think that's probably one of my favorite parts. But I just love the whole movie. I love Lock, Shock, and Barrel when they go and try to find Sandy Claus and they come back with the Easter Bunny. Like I think that's hilarious. Or I don't know. Everything about it, the vampires that are like with the mayor, I just think everything about that movie is so clever. Probably the only thing I don't like is the military scene when they shoot Jack Skellington out of the sky. I don't appreciate that. I don't know why it's in a movie, but yeah, I would probably say when he accepts who he is 100%. He's like, yeah, this is mine. Santa Claus, you can have your Christmas. I'm taking Halloween back. I think that's probably my favorite part.
Well, the whole movie, it's like definitely become one of Disney's most appreciated over the years. It's like its own thing. It's like sometimes I think it's separate from Disney because it's so big in its own right. But do you like mess with like Tim Burton's take on Alice in Wonderland and Dumbo too?
So I haven't seen Dumbo. Again, traditionalist. I have a hard time with the live actions. I've seen a couple. I did watch Alice in Wonderland, the first one. I thought he did a really good job with that. But I tend not to dabble with that. I don't know. I kind of stick with my tried and trues, which is Night Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, which is a great movie also. And then Sleepy Hollow. But unfortunately, I haven't seen that in forever. And I wanted to watch that again, but I can't find it. I don't know. I haven't really dabbled too much in his not lighthearted, but his remakes of movies, I guess, to answer your question. I probably should. But
it's just, like you said, traditionalist. And with some of the Disney movies, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing.
Exactly.
Like, I felt the only one I think, liked so far that I've seen, because there's a lot I haven't seen, because after a while, they were just so bad. I was like, why even try?
Yeah.
But it was it was the Jungle Book one. I thought they did that one really well. But yeah, I tried to watch Aladdin, and it looked like, I've said this before, it looks like a parody porn.
I never thought about that. I fell asleep the first time I watched it. I had to rewatch it. Yeah, I don't know. It's not my cup of tea, I guess, but
they should stop for sure.
I would say though, Tim Burton, because he did Batman and Batman Returns, I believe. And I thought he did a fantastic job. But then once he stopped directing them, I felt like they kind of got ruined.
Yeah, that's the coolest looking. I'm not a Batman fan at all, but that's like the coolest looking one.
Yeah, I thought when I was really little, I remember watching, I think it was Batman Returns, and I couldn't figure out how Gotham was laid out because it looked like it was like a city in the sky, but then it was also like they're driving on the ground. I was so confused throughout the whole movie, but I was also so like obsessed with it. Like, this is amazing.
Well, like we all know he's like the master of like DC and Batman. I think he fit well with Batman. But like, do you think he could ever like take on a Marvel character or Marvel story? They're very like family friendly.
I was gonna say, I feel like they're too happy. Maybe X-Men. I think DC, he could definitely, because DC has more of the tortured superheroes, where Marvel, I mean, I guess they're kind of tortured, but I mean, Thor's not tortured. He has his struggles, but I don't think he could be Tim Burtonized.
Yeah, Thor has Edward Scissorhands. I don't know.
That would be hilarious. He just has axes for fingers.
Yeah, see, there you go. Tim Burton, get on that one. But in a perfect world, like where you could call the shots, like at a movie studio, what like kind of spooky urban legend or story or your favorite haunted place would you like Tim Burton to take and make a movie?
I would say I was reading up, there's this, it's kind of silly, I guess, but I think it'd be interesting. There's this haunted restaurant called the Fly Fisherman in Nova Scotia. And I think it'd be really cool for him to turn that into a movie, because you always have the haunted houses. You have the Stephen Kings where they do the hotels, the haunted hotels and everything like that. but no one really does a haunted restaurant, at least not to my knowledge. And I think that'd be kind of cool for him to Tim Burton that up, because you can go a lot of ways, I feel like. Maybe like a Ratatouille / Corpse Bride situation. I don't know.
Would you want it to be like a live action, like Sleepy Hollow, or more like Nightmare Before Christmas, kind of animated, more family friendly?
It would be cool to go like a Sleepy Hollow route and go the darker side. I think that would be really interesting. I don't think there's enough movies there's a ton of movies that are like that, but I think that would be cool and kind of throw in some lore with it too. I don't know what other Nova Scotia lore there is that would kind of represent it, but I think that'd be kind of cool to take a Sleepy Hollow-esque type of movie and transform it into a haunted restaurant. I don't know. I also think it'd be really cool to dine with ghosts. So maybe that's why.
Well, that sounds like a really interesting one. Like you said, I've never heard of a haunted restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Even on American Horror Story, they've done just about everything. No restaurants.
Yeah.
Oh, no. One girl in Cult, she had a restaurant, but it wasn't haunted. It was just like where she went, where she worked. So one in 10 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Not enough restaurant representation out there.
I don't know. I think you can get your spooky houses, and haunted houses are always going to be scary. You can go so many different ways with that, but I don't know. I just think it'd be cool to introduce a different location,
And of course, like he'd probably get Johnny Depp or Helena Bonham Carter. And there are haters out there that say he shouldn't keep casting these two. But I think look at those two. They were born to be in like Tim Burton's world. They're very unique looking. So What do you think about those haters out there that are like, oh, he just like keeps using those two?
I think they could be quiet. So Johnny Depp, yes, I know he has his personal issues, but as an actor, I feel like he can go so many different directions, and we've even seen that in a lot of his movies. He takes on these personas so in depth, and he brings these characters to life regardless of what it is. And I think it is cool to have an actor and a director work so closely because they work so well together. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that carries through to the film. So I would 100% support continuing with the Johnny Depps of the world. I think that would be interesting, leaving the political outside of acting stuff out of it.
Yeah, because it's kind of like sports, like a coach and like a quarterback, like Tom Brady and that dude, whoever, Belichick, whatever. Like they were so good together, and they get a lot of haters. So it's kind of like those two.
I mean, I think there's always going to be haters, no matter what you do, what you say. I think there's always going to be people that just have to be a little negative. But I also think there's people out there that appreciate the art behind it, and I think that's what I would appreciate is the art and the fluidity that comes from a good team onto film. So
yeah, and they've made a lot, and we're gonna play a game with a couple of them right now, because around here we love to play Fuck, Marry, Kill. And we're gonna do a special Tim Burton edition for you today with some of his most famous characters for movies that you've noted that you kind of love most. So we're going to do Sleepy Hollow's Ichabod Crane, Nightmare Before Christmas's Jack Skellington, and Edward Scissorhands himself. Go.
Oh, gosh. Fuck Ichabod Crane. Marry Jack Skellington. No. Oh, this is hard. This is really hard. I don't want to kill anyone. Well, I feel like it'd be really dangerous to fuck Edward Scissorhands, so I don't really want to do that. I feel like it would hurt a lot. Yeah. Maybe marry Edward Scissorhands. Yeah, marry Edward Scissorhands. You can't kill a pumpkin king, so this is really hard. Oh, crap. Okay. Let me think about this one for a second. Sorry.
Go ahead. I mean, this is a hard process. Fuck, marry, kill is like no joke.
It's not. It's hard. It makes you really think. Okay, marry Edward Scissorhands, fuck Jack Skellington, although that would be a little awkward too, and then we can kill Ichabod Crane.
Mine would have been, I would have switched Edward. I think I would have fucked Edward Scissorhands. I would take the risk. And and Jack Skellington's like already dead, so I'll just do that, and then I guess marry the other guy. I mean, he has a job, right? I want to be taken care of. Yeah.
But Edward Scissorhands, I mean, you can do your hair whenever you need to.
That's true. So, and the garden.
Yeah, you would never have to do yard work again. And I do not like doing yard work, so.
For the necessity, Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's really hard when you do like a good three.
Yeah, it is. Because at first I was like, oh yeah, it's no problem. Then I was like, wait a minute. Like, let me think of the logistics here.
Like one time at Warped Tour, I was doing press and I asked a band, like I used to do like popcorn questions. So I'd write like 100 or so questions and I was like, pick a number. They might be about music, might be fuck, marry, kill. Let's do this. And this band, they picked a fuck, marry, kill. And it was like all, I mean, you know, Warped Tour is 90% dudes. So it's like, I did Ryan Phillippe, Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan Gosling. And they were like, oh man.
Oh, that would be so easy. Marry Ryan Reynolds, fuck Ryan Gosling, and then kill Ryan Phillippe.
Oh, okay, I could see how quick you came to that.
Yes.
I don't know. Fuck would definitely be Ryan Gosling. For sure. The other two, I don't know.
I think Ryan Reynolds is so funny and I love his personality.
That's
Ryan
true.
Phillippe doesn't really do anything for me. I think he has like a little too like girly of a face for me. So
like, I just think of like, I keep him in my head as like Cruel Intentions, Ryan Phillippe. So I'm like, but yeah, he has gotten older and like we haven't really, I guess he still works, but I mean, not anything I've watched.
I haven't seen his name pop up in anything.
I think he was on the last season of Will and Grace. I think that's one episode.
I mean, he was married to Reese Witherspoon, so he does have good taste.
Yeah. And like, I mean, they're adorable. It's too bad that didn't work. So sad when that didn't work. I don't know why. Nothing to do with me.
You were like so invested.
Like, well, because they did the movie. So you're like, oh my, it's kind of like Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar. You're like, they did. Yes. And they're still together. So it's amazing. So
I love them.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
You played the game. So now it's time to pick a world of Tim Burton's, like, to live in. Like, if you and your like partner could live in any Tim Burton world, which would it be and why?
Ooh, okay. I would. Or
you can like ditch your partner. You could live in this world alone. It's up to you.
I'll bring him with me. Why not? Can I bring my animals?
Yeah.
I would probably say Corpse Bride, like the underworld Corpse Bride, not like the actual real above ground. I like the underworld because I think that's fun and like jazzy and. I think that would be a lot of fun. So I would say Corpse Bride.
Well, that's a good choice. I thought you were going to go Nightmare Before Christmas. I talk of it, but
would have, but I don't know. I just kind of, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, they spend a year planning for the next Halloween, and I feel like with Corpse Bride, they have a little bit more fun.
Like, I don't want to do all that work for one day.
I just want to enjoy it. Call me in 6 months, and then I'll help out with Halloween.
You'll go back and forth.
Yes.
I don't know which one I'd pick. They're all fun. Probably Edward. No. If I could live in like where Edward Scissorhands like lived originally, that would be cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely his castle. That would be really cool. But I have a lot of questions about Edward Scissorhands that I think Tim Burton needs to address like right now.
You're like, come on. Well, if you could ask him like one question, what would it be? Like, would it be about this movie? Would it be a creative process question? What would it be?
I think it'd be a creative process. I would want to know how he dreams up these worlds and these characters. I mean, how do you come up with Beetlejuice and the freaking waiting room that they have in the movie? Like, how do you dream that up? Or
the best scene.
I know, it's so funny. But all that, I think just his creative process, how he dreams this up. Like, does it come to him just overnight? Is it this process? Does he just see something and it sparks this idea in his head? I think that would be really interesting to find out and learn from. And maybe like be able to apply that in like my creative stuff that I like to do. Mm-hmm. Kind of a different mindset. I don't know. I think that's interesting.
Well, the world you've dreamed up is Bats on the Brain podcast. And I want to know, like, where did your interest in, like, the spooky and paranormal come from? Was it, like, a movie, a documentary, a book, something maybe on the internet, the early days of the internet?
The early days. It actually stems from, I have a lot of people in my life that are sensitive to the paranormal. And so they're always telling me stories, like, their experiences. And I get so engrossed with them. I'm always like, oh, did you see anything else? Like, what happened? Or there's like, Nikki, something crazy happened. I'm like, tell me now. And I think that's where my interest came. And then I do love horror movies and scary movies. And so that kind of plays into it. But I think my first real appreciation was just hearing my friends and family's experiences, because I've never had any paranormal experiences personally. I think it's so fascinating to hear other people's real life happenings. And then also like just all the movies that I watch a lot of horror films. My husband can find the most obscure movies on like Amazon. I don't know how. They end up being really good, and it's a different world, and it's fascinating. I think I do definitely believe, but I want to experience that, like the other side of the veil kind of world. Not like I don't want to die right now, but I want like,
well,
I've never
there.
Sorry, it comes through every once in a while. I don't know. I like the idea that we're not the only ones here, and I think that's a really interesting thing. So anything that is about it, so like I said, personal experiences or movies that shine a light to it, or even ghost stories, how people dream up these crazy, terrifying stories that we grow up with. I think those are all just fascinating, and that kind of is what got my attention.
Like, what's her name? Bloody Mary?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've never done that. Terrified me. I always thought she was going to come.
We had this in elementary school, a bathroom that was kind of just like this trailer apart from like where the classrooms were, like near the like teacher's parking lot. And I remember like they would do that in there, and I was like, y'all are wild. Y'all are crazy.
Y'all right.
Like, you guys are trying to get the devil in here. I was like, no, I was like, never one to mess with that stuff, because I do believe in ghosts. Me and my mom swear there's one in her trailer. Like, ooh, we think it's like a dog, because it used to be my grandma's trailer, and one time my mom had to dog sit, and then she was like, don't let my dog die. The dog died. And so my mom thinks it's the dog like haunting her, because she'll be in her room, and she'll like for years say she would feel something come and like sit on the bed. Ooh. And then I've always seen like this little light dart from the room to the bathroom, and so has she. So I think it's the dog. I don't think it's anything like a person or anything, but definitely that dog's haunting
100%. The dog's probably like, hey, you weren't supposed to let me die, so I'm still here.
She's like, don't let my dog die.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely the dog, but I think that I just love hearing people's personal experiences, and that's really what drew me into it initially.
Like, you say the paranormal, and you say like we're not alone, but do you also like verge into like the aliens being with us too?
Yes. So I feel like I would be silly to say that we are the only beings that can be in our solar system. I definitely think there are aliens out there. I've never seen them. My husband's claimed he's seen them, like spaceships or like weird, like darty lights in the sky. Mm-hmm. So I would say yes. I think aliens do exist 100%. I just haven't experienced. I do watch the skies a lot though, because we do go camping. So when it's pitch black, we're like, okay, is there aliens? Like, we need to see something.
So you said you have this interest in all these spooky things, and like you wanted just like a platform to kind of talk about what you were interested in. But like, when did you start to plan the podcast, and how did you kind of be like, all right, I'm finally going to do it?
This summer. So I was kind of just wanting, I'm in California, and it's 100 plus degrees in the middle of summer. And I was like, I want cold weather, and I want spooky stories, and I want to tell ghost stories, and I want like all these, I want the magic that comes with Halloween and October and that feeling. I want that all the time. So I was kind of playing around with the idea of doing a podcast, and I also wanted a platform where I could just say kind of what I was thinking, what I was feeling. And I was like, hey, let's do a podcast, and let's mix in like whatever I want to talk about with scary paranormal, because who doesn't love hearing haunted things? And then I can talk about like horror movies if I wanted to, and then I want to talk about like trick-or-treating and the nostalgia that we grew up with and how different it is today. And I just kind of want to mix all that in, anything that has to do with spookiness and paranormal and like even traditions, like rituals. I kind of want to talk about it all. So I just kind of dreamed it up, and I think I was working one day when Bats on the Brain came to me, and I was like, oh, that's a good name. So that's kind of how I dreamed it up. And I talked to my husband about it, and he's like, yeah, do it. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing it.
Well, that's good. He's encouraging. I mean, he's a believer as well, so that's good.
He probably doesn't want to hear me talk about it to him. So he's like, talk to somebody else.
That's true. That's probably why my husband helped me. Go in the room and talk to anybody else.
Yes, exactly.
But so we're gonna play a quick round of your favorite spooky things. All right, so your favorite horror movie.
The movie I'm most terrified of is Paranormal Activity, the first one. And I would probably say that's probably one of my top favorite scary movies or horror movies because it scares me and that makes me into it. Or Nightmare on Elm Street because it's Freddy Krueger and I can't not be obsessed with that. So
you were actually going to talk about him as a crush, but we went to Burton.
Yes. I feel like Freddy Krueger is a little too disturbing as when he was a serial killer, like in real life. But I think, I would say either Nightmare on Elm Street or Paranormal Activity are probably my tops.
All right. Halloween candy?
Kit Kats.
Oh. I always loved anything chocolate. I was like, don't give me those fruit candies.
No, I don't want no fruit, sour stuff. I want all the chocolate.
The Dots and Juji fruits. Me and my brother would be like, oh my God, never go to their house again.
Yes. Yeah, Kit Kats are probably my favorite, followed very closely by Reese's. I would always get disappointed when I got candy corn because I do not like candy corn. I don't understand it. I think it's a very weird candy.
It kind of reminds me of like wax bottles.
Yes.
Don't know why we were eating those either.
I don't know. I did enjoy getting pixie sticks though too.
Oh, a Fun Dip.
Fun Dip.
Just I didn't like the powder. I only liked the stick.
Yeah, it was like it was kind of like it wasn't sweet, but it was kind of sweet. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely remember that.
Definitely like the weirdest candy flavor ever. Okay, So haunted place.
I would say, let's see. Oh, that's a good one. I feel like there's a lot of good haunted places. Right now, I'm kind of into Salem, Massachusetts in general. Because there's a lot of stuff that goes on with the witch trials. In my first episode, actually, shameless plug, I talk about the haunted cemeteries, two of the haunted cemeteries in Salem. And that was really interesting. So I'm thinking Salem right now is probably one of my favorite haunted places.
Your favorite like Halloween costume from when you were little?
Oh gosh. I had the worst Halloween costumes ever. One year this was actually probably my least favorite Halloween costume because it itched, but I was a pumpkin. We filled it full of newspapers. So I'm walking around and it was just the scratchiest thing in the entire world. I hated it.
Oh my God. Well, it was like your destiny for the pumpkin spice.
I guess so.
It was your like origin story.
1 year I was a pumpkin. The next year I got my pumpkin spice latte.
Yep. Just like, they grow up so fast. So, and then your last one would be your favorite like urban legend.
So New Orleans, this is more folklore, but they have a rougarou, which is they're like a bayou werewolf. And that one's pretty interesting, but I wouldn't say it's an urban legend. I think urban legends is more like the Bloody Marys of the world. And, I don't know.
Well, maybe that then, because that's terrifying.
It's pretty cool.
So the show kicked off in the beginning of October, just in time for Halloween and everything. Yes. So what can listeners expect as we like round out the year?
I am actually very excited. So I have a very fun Halloween episode that's coming out actually about the same time that everyone's hearing this, but we are going to be I'm going to be reading ghost stories from Scary Stories from the Dark, volume 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if you remember those growing up.
Oh, from the Scholastic Book Fair, they kind of like scratchy covers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be reading some ghost stories from there. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. And then I have plans to do a Goblin episode. And then I want to do Krampus for Christmas. I think I'm totally fascinated with Krampus. He's so cool. So I'm looking forward to that. I definitely have a lot of good ideas coming up. So I keep like playing around with what do I want to talk about next. And I definitely want to do like a horror movie episode. I just don't know when or what it's going to be about yet.
Well, there's so many you could do.
There's
Like
so many.
so many.
And then I'm hopefully going forward, maybe by the end of the year, I can do like a listener personal experiences episode where, you know, I get to read other people's experiences, because I do like hearing that on other podcasts. I think that's really interesting. And fingers crossed I can do that on mine. So that's one thing I'm hoping to do. We'll see if that happens. But that's kind of what I have planned.
Well, if you have a spooky story, a ghost tale, you should hit Nikki up.
Please do.
And can you tell people where they can find you online?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, and that is at That's on the Brain Pod. And then if you guys do have spooky stories, you can email the podcast at that'sonthebrainpod@gmail.com. So we don't have a website yet, but I'm debating if I want to build one. So I'll keep you guys updated.
All right, Nikki. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today about your spooky crush. And everyone, you can find all of Nikki's information in the description below. And until next time, keep crushing it.